Bye, Santosh. Can you tap the okay and move my face away?
Move your face away.
On the top right, just slide it to the bar. Slide it away. Can you tap the okay and move my oh, gosh. Face away? That's good. Just move it to the left side. No, 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 no. Okay. Move it away. Move it out of the screen. There you go. Okay, people, let's get started. Huh? We're singing now. Huh?
But it's good that you stay there and sing.
Okay, Santosh, you can start.
There's a high part and there's a low part.
My Jesus, my Savior, Lord, there is none like you. All of my days, I want to praise the wonders of your mighty love. My comfort, my shelter, tower of refuge and strength. Let every breath, all that I am, never cease to worship you. Shout to the Lord, all the earth, let us sing. Power and majesty, praise to the King. Mountains bow down and the seas will roar at the sound of your name. I sing for joy at the work of your hands. Forever I love you, forever I stand. Nothing compares to the promise I have in you.
We want to see
Jesus lifted high above the clouds across this land, that all men will see the truth and know He is the way to heaven. We want to see Jesus lifted high above the clouds across this land, that all men will see the truth and know He is the way to heaven. We want to see, we want to see, we want to see Jesus lifted high. We want to see, we want to see, we want to see Jesus lifted high. Step by step, we're moving forward, little by little, taking ground. Every prayer, a powerful weapon, strongholds come tumbling down and down and down and down.
2, 3, go.
We want to see Jesus lifted high, a banner that flies across the land, that all men might see the truth and know that He is the way to heaven. We want to see, we want to see, we want to see Jesus lifted high. We want to see, we want to see, we want to see Jesus lifted high. All right, let's pray. Gracious Father, we thank you for this time. Thank you that we are able to come together to study the scriptures. We ask you to be with those who are still on their way, and we ask you to keep them safe. And Father, we ask you to be with us as we study the scriptures now. Enable us to understand what is written in Genesis, enable us to understand how it impacts our lives today. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. All right, we are in Genesis chapter 43. Can you believe it? So there are 34 verses. Shannon is used to reading 53 and all at a time, so. Okay, who's reading? No, I just,
You're still there, but
when this sharing starts again, I don't know why I can't. Yeah.
get to the point.
No, bad penny. I'm not a black sheep. I'm just a bad penny.
And Genesis 43.
Yeah.
Now the famine in the land was severe, and then
Hold on. Uncle, can you hear? Read a little louder.
Yes, I can.
You hear Sharon when she's reading. Okay, she's gonna start reading. Okay.
now the famine in the land was severe, and it happened that as they finished eating the grain which they had brought from Egypt, their father said to them, "Return and buy a little food for us." Then Judah said to him, "The man solemnly admonished us, saying, You should not see my face unless your brother is with me. If you send our brother with us, we will go down and buy food for him. But if you will not send him, we will not go down. For the man said to us, You shall not see my face unless your brother is with me." Then Israel said, "Why did you bring trouble to me by telling the man you still have a brother?" And they said, "The man asked explicitly about us and about our family, saying, Is your father still alive? We have a brother." And we answered him according to these words. How could we know that he would say, Bring down your brother? Then Judah said to his father Israel, "Send word with me, and let us arise and go, so that we will live and not die, you, me, and our children. I myself will be surety for him. You may seek him from my hand. If I do not bring him back to you and present him before you, then I will stand guilty before you forever. Surely, if we had not hesitated by this time, we would have returned twice." And the father Israel said to them, "If it must be so, then do this. Take some of the best products of the land in your lands and take them down to the man as a gift. A little balm and honey, aromatic gum and myrrh, and pistachios and almonds. And take double the money in your hands. Take back the money that was returned in the mouth of your sacks. Perhaps it was a mistake. And take your brother. Now arise and return to the man, and the election will grant you compassion before the man, that he will release your other brother to you and Benjamin. As for me, if I am bereaved, I am bereaved." So the men took this gift, and they took double money in their hands and Benjamin, and they rose up and went down to Egypt, and stood before Joseph. When Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the one who was in his household, "Bring the men into the house, and slaughter and prepare the animal, for the men shall eat with me at the meal." And the man did as Joseph had said, and the man brought the men into the house of Joseph. And the men were afraid when they were brought into the house of Joseph. And they said, "We were brought here on account of the money that was returned to our sacks the first time, that he might attack us and fall upon us and take us as slaves with our donkeys." So they approached the man who was over Joseph's house and spoke to him of the glory of the house. And they said, "Please, my lord, we surely came down once before to buy food, But when we came to the place of lodging and we opened our sacks, and behold, each one's money was in the mouth of the sack, our money in its full weight, so we returned with it in our hands. Now, other money we brought down in our hand to buy food. We do not know who put our money in our sacks. And we said, peace to you, do not be afraid. Your God and the God of your father must have given you a treasure in your sacks. Your money came to me, and he brought singing out to them. Then the man brought the men into Joseph's house, and he gave them water and washed their feet, and gave fodder to their donkeys. Then they laid out the gift unto Joseph king of the meal, for they had heard that they were to eat food there. When Joseph came into the house, they brought the gift that was in their hand into the house to them, and they bowed down before him to the ground. And he greeted them and said, is your father buried? The old man of whom you spoke, is he still alive? And they said, your servant, our father, is dead, who is still alive. And they knelt and bowed down. And then he lifted up his eyes and saw Benjamin, his brother, the son of his mother, and said, is this your youngest brother with whom you told me? And he continued, God be gracious to you, my son. And Joseph hurried away, being overcome with emotion toward his brother, and sought for a place to dwell. Then he went into a room and wept there. Then he washed his face and went out, now controlling himself, and said, serve the food. And they served him by himself, and them by themselves. And the Egyptians were eating with them by themselves. For Egyptians could not dine with Hebrews, because that was a detestable thing to Egyptians. And they were seated before him from the firstborn according to his birthright, with the youngest according to his youth. And the men looked at one another amazed. The portions were served to them from this table, and the portion of them was 5 times greater than the portion with any of them. And they drank and became drunk. Now, many fees and no husband and
So he was not supposed to, they were not trying to prove that they needed extra food for another. He explicitly asked about that. But last time he was surmising, saying he must have had to prove. And you said a year and a half was between chapter 40.
I'm just assuming because they're saying we could have come and gone twice over. And I mean, I doubt you're carrying just enough for a month at a time. I mean, that the journey itself is going to take a couple of weeks each time. So it's a month of traveling. I would assume you'd carry at least for 4 months worth of stuff. At least.
And they have their own dry fruit. Right? So it's not only that food that they were eating.
Yeah, so they had dried whatever.
Palm, honey, aromatic something. You can eat. Only honey.
But if your stomach is aching,
knows?
maybe you could put some balm. Chandu balm. Okay, anyway. What?
It's not the aching.
No.
Castor or anything.
Anyway, so yeah. These are things that would not have perished very easily. Honey does not perish. Pistachios, almonds, they last quite a long time. So.
They had money, they had all of these precious things, but no.
No food.
Even the cup was silver, right? But no value.
Yeah.
This verse then, is it just to say the length of the time? Why would they have gone twice?
Food would have gotten over, right? Mm.
So were they suffering?
I think they were starving, right?
Time?
Yeah, so they finished eating the grain, etc., and they were eating only pistachios. Not a bad thing.
I know, it's quite good. I'm thinking onions.
So I think
Yeah, they were quite desperate.
I think the first few verses is not just once that they said that. I think that this is something that probably happened multiple times. No, go get some food, and he says, "No, don't take my brother." And then he said, "We can't go without a brother." And I think it must have happened a couple of times at least before Jacob realizes that okay, there's no other option.
Yeah, they probably rationate less and less and stretched it, but not enough.
But she doesn't say the window. It's the only black kingdom and say she didn't have the intention.
What happened?
We do that thing to say raise my hand. But didn't he have the title, Joseph in Egypt?
He might have had the title, but I don't think these guys would have known what his title was.
Governor, right?
Because-
Previous chapter it says, now Joseph was the governor over the land.
Yeah, but his brothers may not have known what it is.
I wasn't here last week, so I didn't know the discussion. That's why I was just reading the chapter for the question. This time I did.
If you miss it, you miss it. That's it.
Yeah, it's like,
How could we solemnly acknowledge someone?
Very serious about them.
with all respect. With due
It's not a
respect.
crack of a smile, just very. We didn't use harsh words. So when Joseph had a daddy, the king had the dreams, was it God telling him that there was 7 years of famine and 7 years of that? When God.
God is telling whom?
The king.
God is telling the king.
Yeah.
What? What?
As it was God telling the king that there's 7 years of prosperity and then 7 years of famine. If you say that God chooses not to know everything, here is one place where he's chosen to know it.
He's got to get these guys. He's got to keep them alive.
But he said God speaks in dreams, no?
Yeah, I know. No, that's not what I mean. He's asking not about the dreams. Huh?
Jada and Jordan.
Yes, like asking, taking him the gun, but I don't know. Did we have the dominance?
That's so sweet.
So cute.
No, that's young, that's
Can take bread. Is there more bread? There should be more than I presume. Okay, yeah, whatever. What are they saying? Okay. Got to keep them alive.
What was the point you were making?
No, you said that God chooses not to know everything, right? In the sense he,
This is my book.
yeah. So here, he's choosing to know that there's going to be famine and there's going to be.
Find the foreknowledge.
Yeah,
Why is you?
to just a statement.
I was the omniscient and one is the
I don't think he's omniscient.
Shit.
Sure. He is knowledgeable, definitely.
Scientific.
The science,
Yeah,
science, and word science.
scientia is Latin for knowledge.
You know, named him that. Lord, imagine if the name was that.
Scientia.
Yeah.
I'm glad it's Deepak. Scientia. Senile scientia. Huh?
How do you spell it?
Science.
Science.
TIA at the end, that's it. CN, TIA.
Science.
Yeah. Science. Yeah.
Pity those who join online.
Uncle, can you actually hear us anything or no? Only uncle. Because said she's joining, but not joining.
I think it's a lot of banter. So
There is banter, yes.
Banter.
So as Sharon said, the children were struggling and dying, right? Verse 8. Almost. That we will all live, you, we and our children.
Yeah. That they were?
And they were dying and needed to go. Get the
Pressure on him. Is word surety in verse 9, does it mean the same as in English? The guarantee.
Surety, yeah. Hold on. Verse 9.
Yeah.
Surety is something that you will
Collateral.
Yeah, collateral.
Well, so
Can we surety if Joseph accepts it?
it's actually it's a verb form which these guys the English translation has made it a noun. I will guarantee. I will pledge. I will be pledged.
I will pledge, provided the one is the
Recipient.
the recipient of the agrees to the behavior.
Yeah.
So what does it mean in this context? I will be assured.
He's explaining it, no? No, he's explaining it also, right? Later. If I do not bring him back to you and present him to you, then I will stand guilty before you forever. So he's not doing the Reuben thing. No. Take my two sons and kill them. He's saying he will bear the blame forever. Huh?
I said, that's where representative of us, all of us. And people we see all of us.
Yes.
So I myself will be surety for this that I will blame him to you. Is that okay?
No, I mean like.
No, he says later, right? If I
Trust me, if I don't bring him,
You may seek him for the name. If I do not bring him up to you and present him to you, it's up to you for you. So this is surety. Surety means, I mean, as in today's parlance, it means that he would be there instead with God.
Why is that surety?
That's not sure.
No. Why is surety only?
People don't.
Surety is not only collateral, right? There are multiple meanings for surety. We're taking just one meaning. It's not written by accountants. So surety is a person who takes responsibility for another person of another person's performance, possibly by appearing in court or paying a debt. That is a wider definition than what is in accounts. Money.
Is there anything we need to?
Yeah, that the order, they stand in one order. What is it?
Both order.
Household process.
They're surprised that he,
Birthright
somebody
order.
else.
Birthright is different. So you went to find it.
No, right at the end, no, both right, 33.
I'm waiting for the briefing. Maybe come up.
Waiting for the next chapter, is it?
No, I thought you were to the next part. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, that's this. We greeted them and said, you thought about you, man. No, but before that, he takes like so much care of them. Must be terrifying for them that they were identified and taken away. Some room. I know, just imagine.
he's taking us to his own house. Who knows what he's doing us to us there? Huh?
Yes. But this is a good greeting, right? To give them water, wash their feet. It's a welcome.
Yeah,
It's a welcome.
it is a welcome.
And he's feeding the donkeys, so they know they're going to get to do it. What is that D there for Ada? Whatever they had brought.
Yeah, so let's spread it all out.
And
Pistachios and almonds.
they're kind of stewing
Yeah, yeah.
till noon.
Yeah, we don't know when they got there, but yeah. till noon.
Yeah, they must have been so tense, no? Terrified. Yeah. Donkeys have got food. What's going to happen to us?
You seem to be talking about.
Uncle, I just said how terrifying it must have been that they waited till noon, not knowing what their fate was. Still not eatable. It's still-
Is uncle there?
So, lectured up his eyes, saw Benjamin. His brother and the son of his.
Can't hear you very clearly, uncle.
That must have been.
It's a say, I can hear. Rest of the conversation is rather muffled.
Ah,
Is it better now? Okay.
is it green?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah. I mean, when you specifically ask me, yes, I can.
Okay, we're all talking.
Can you hear me?
Yes, of course.
Okay, I don't know why you'll need to project. I'm also using the same mics. I'm not using my laptop mic.
Shout.
I can really hear you.
Other sound.
Yeah,
Your son has arrived. Late.
we shall keep him as surety.
Very much.
Okay, why do they say in verse 28, your servant, our father, is well?
Yeah. They have to come in.
What's that, uncle?
It's nice to see Sam being welcomed by Sherlock.
Oh,
You can say hi to your dad, please.
it's just respect, yeah. He's a
Lord.
big official here. So instead of saying just our father, when our father will be your servants like we are.
They have been in total
10 brothers, no?
And Benjamin and the black, right?
No, right now, right?
No, one is
Dad is there. Simeon is in jail. Because Simeon is released.
Signs and then surrender.
Simeon is
Why is he there in jail?
Yeah,
Yes.
he's brought out, right?
Simeon has already been brought out.
23. 23 and then the.
Yeah.
Simeon's also have it.
So there are 11 of them.
So father is not there?
Jacob's not there.
No.
In verse 30, afterwards that the father comes.
Yeah, now they'll go back and bring him, no?
There's one more journey.
Now is the journey to bring the whole
Or every-
wives and kids and father and everything.
The verse 30 it says he overcome with emotion. When you expand it, it says his compassion boiled up.
Is compassion boiled up? Okay, let's see what word is there for compassion. Hold on.
Overwhelming.
Literally his compassion boiled up.
He calls his younger brother son.
Overwhelmingly overwhelmed.
But he still not told them, right? He still hasn't told them who he is. He's still acting as a beta.
It's associates with anger.
Maga. God be gracious, Maga.
Sorry?
I'm saying he called his younger brother son. But he will be like Maga.
Where is it? It's compassion boiled up.
Yes, he says his compassion being warm for his brother.
It's compassion.
For his heart yearned for his brother.
Just reading back.
Hardly the ways must have gone from good.
So a very rare word used only 4 times in the Old Testament.
Because the found the word is used 4 times.
Yeah, so it's not a very common word. Kamar.
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 Context.
One is in, this is the first occurrence. Then we have 1 Kings 3:26. She was deeply stirred for her son. Who is this now in 1 Kings 3:26? Huh? Solomon. Oh, this is the 2 prostitutes. So the one whose child it actually was.
Oh,
Mother.
intense.
Then you have Lamentations.
Feelings.
Lamentations 5:10.
Normally.
Okay, so this is
Sorry.
prayer of lamentation. And then Hosea 11:8. So these are all in very
Extreme.
extreme situations. Yeah. 11:8. How can I give you up Oh, Ephraim.
And the skin is hot like an organ because of the scorching flame. What is emotion?
Huh?
Lamentations 5:10 years.
Lamentations 5.
Because of the scorching flame.
Yeah. So they probably paraphrased quite a bit. Lamentations, where are we? 5.
In the early reading, we had.
So our skin is, what is it? Our skin?
Our skin is hot like.
The hot, word for hot is that. Nikmaru. It's a different conjugation.
Sure. Come in, Shraddha. Come in. Sure. I have it.
It's here and then
Sit down, sit down.
All my compassions are aroused. That's the last clause. Oh, that's good. Yeah. Okay.
So the Egyptians couldn't eat with the Hebrews, it's not the other way around.
Everyone didn't like everyone else.
Was it?
We didn't like it.
Have you?
Would have been a good time for him to reveal who he was, right? But he was too caught up with his emotions.
Pride in front of them and become them.
His position reading. All years of watching he was so party that they wouldn't.
It's going to come. He's going to do it soon. That'll be.
Verse 33.
He has to still test them. Yeah.
Verse 33 gives them a teaser.
Verse 33 gives them a teaser.
See how.
Yeah, I mean the birth order and all that.
What's this birthright order? That's the same as the birth order.
Yeah.
And the youngest maybe.
Huh?
And the first one according to his birthright, the youngest according to his youth. What does that mean?
First has the birthright. First one has the birthright. The youngest is
The youngest and all the rest fall in between.
in the middle. Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle, they start with birthright order and it became
Birth order.
age.
Unless they sold it among themselves.
But there's been many sales, huh? Sales of birthright.
Yes. How many of them are there? They've done competitions.
But the food that they ate was the same as the Egyptians.
We don't know.
Yeah, he sent it from his table.
If he's a Jew, right?
Yeah, but he would have had different.
They don't know, right?
No, but they would have known that it's coming from his table as an honor. Yeah.
Oh,
But they're Hebrews and they had problems with other people's food.
the Egyptians have problems here, according to this.
Dietary requirements, you can check with them.
The chef will. This is one day. Wouldn't he have,
We actually don't know whether they observed any kosher at this time. So let's not assume that they did, because Torah has not yet been given, right? So
But it says.
They could have been having
they could have been having bacon at this time. Yeah? So Father Abraham really loved his bacon. I mean,
things taken.
so we should be careful. Torah is next book, so
They became drunks with him.
Each time we say the word drunk, we say like.
Yeah,
Fashion.
it's-
Drunk.
she's overcome with fashion. Her compassion boils up in her when she talks.
Yes. The LED and
Speak louder.
they translate that last verse very differently. It is and they drank and became drunk with them.
My name. Words, please.
Project.
Nothing is present. That's why we gave it.
Okay,
But here it's just so they feasted and drank freely. Drank freely and drank and became drunk too.
Two different.
yeah.
They really.
So, it's the same, so it's the same, verb in, two different forms. Vayishtu is the to drink. And it's, what?
Stew.
There you go, there.
That one, oh.
So, and they have a more intense form, Iskeru. So they drank and they became drunk. I mean, that is intensified is what. No,
English is just one word. Both,
it's two different forms of the same word, right?
form.
So the same word here. No, it's the same word though. Same word, two different forms. One is an intensified form. So it's drank and what would be the more intense form? Became drunk. You're reading what? NIV. Because we don't like, Protestants don't like to say that anyone in the Bible became drunk. So, that's not.
They drank freely, that's all.
Huh?
What about wine?
He was obviously bad. This is a good thing, right? I mean, this is a celebration on all brothers and all that, and they became drunk.
What kind of drinks would they have had in those days?
They would have had wine mainly. Yeah. They made beer also.
This is the Egyptian.
So the Egyptians made beer. I don't know about almond wine and all that, but okay. Out of the grains they would have made all sorts of things. So, but beer was common in Egypt, and wine was common throughout the Mediterranean.
And again, Benjamin gets 5 times. So they would have known that there is some connection with his fellow and Benjamin.
What is it though?
He's asked.
Does he want to kidnap him now? He knows our birth order. He knows. I mean, he already knew this was the youngest. Now what is this?
Even earlier.
He's trying to win his affection by giving him more. Is he trying to win his affections or
Fattening the calf. Fattening the calf.
fattening the calf? Okay, yeah. But
I've been wondering, like, at what point do I give myself and then Benjamin will go.
cool stuff, huh?
Any significance to 5 times?
No
Yes.
idea.
It's like it was a lot.
A lot, yeah. I mean,
What's that?
could have been twice also, and we would do okay. Fine. I don't know. I have no idea why 5. It doesn't make any.
7 times. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sharon, you had a question?
Yes. Verse 33. And they were seated before him. So did they sit by themselves? Or did he make them sit in the audience? Because obviously he knew.
So they are. I think the implication, the men looked at one another amazed. The last part of the verse seems to indicate that it's Joseph who assigned them the seats. Not that they took their seats, because if they took their seats in birth order, there's nothing amazing. I mean, they obviously knew. Now this Egyptian official is putting them in birth order. That is.
Then Benjamin gets 5 times.
Because of the first 10 of them are born in quite quick succession. Now they're in their 40s and all that, right? So it's not going to be that easy to distinguish between them age-wise.
That's
So that's what they're amazed, right? They are amazed. Because if they're younger, if they're in their early 20s, and if Ruben was in his early 20s and the others were teenagers, you would have been able to, at that time, distinguish between who is, roughly at least. Now, when they're all in their 30s and 40s, who knows? And they all probably have beards and all that.
Is there significance of them sitting in that order? I think he must be playing game.
I think, yeah, I think he's playing.
So he knows. More than they know.
They know, yeah.
Was 23.
Oh, we went, no, okay, fine.
I can do it.
No food and no repeat questions.
Verse 23.
I think Joseph has taught us word about the Hebrew God.
No, your God, whatever. Everyone has a God.
Your God, the God of your father.
Your God, yeah, doesn't matter. I don't think he has any theological significance to those words. Yeah, that's our problem, is that we don't want to put ourselves in the place of an Egyptian and say, okay, what would the Egyptian official have said? He's not talking about Yahweh. Why would he be talking about Yahweh?
God, your father, it's one of those usages which is there very common in the Old Testament, right? The God of our father. It would have been common.
It's all over the place. You ask any Hindu here, they'll tell you it's we have a God. Our Kuladev is there, right? That's a God of our family. Right? A God of our family.
Hebrew word used, I don't know.
Hello.
Okay, but at least Joseph would have told him about he would have been in on the plan to give them back the silver.
Oh yeah, so he would have known that it had come from Joseph itself. Joseph had, but
So
he would have
to say this,
Joseph.
Joseph would have told him what to say, right?
Yeah, Joseph. He's definitely coached. I mean, this is not an uncoached witness. No, definitely he's coached to say what Joseph wants him to say.
But Joe, go ahead. Go ahead. No, I'm just thinking the fact to be behind the scenes instructing his fellows with this one next, with that one next, because they don't, the arrangers.
Joseph is there, no? Joseph is there with him. No, but he's already there with them, no? That is known as the, yeah. When verse 26, when Joseph came to the house, they brought the gifts, etc. So he's already there.
But didn't he sit separately?
Yeah, so he sat separately, and then he said, "Now you sit there. Now you go there." They're in the same room. They're eating in the same room.
What's the steward there?
So
That'd be kind of difficult for them to recognize, right? I mean, these are strangers coming in. Be quite, unless they themselves had multicolored coats.
Oh, the blue one goes there.
Joseph's brothers and the technicolor coats.
That incident bad. Did Joseph keep to the faith of his fathers at this time, or would he have?
What is the faith of his father? Wait, we're talking about Jacob. What is the faith of Jacob? Are we like
Cheating.
Yeah, so he probably kept to the faith of his father. Yeah, sure. Well, he was 17 when he came, so not raised. He's a young man. I don't know about that necessarily. I mean, I think Joseph would have known about the covenants that God made with Abraham and Isaac and then Jacob. I mean, I think that would have been part of the family discussions and all of that. That this land God has promised us, that who knows when we're going to get it. He told grandfather that it'll be 400 years and we'll be slaves not looking forward to that, don't know when that's going to happen. I mean, so those stories would have been around. I mean, I think Joseph. Joseph's boys' names are Hebrew.
He was in touch with some.
But the problem is that all their names are Hebrew, but there was no Hebrew being spoken at this time.
So then,
So
language it.
How do we?
we have to ask ourselves what is happening, right? Yeah. So these are names given later to the tribes.
So in fact, the man.
Man and his boys.
Because at this time there's no evidence of Hebrew anywhere.
So what was the language?
What was the name?
They would have been speaking Egyptian or some Canaanite language. The brothers would have been speaking some Canaanite language, most likely Akkadian or Ugaritic or something like that. And then Joseph has a translator, right? In the previous chapter, we have that.
An Egyptian name,
Who
Joseph.
would
Because otherwise his name would set him apart and they would have something. I'm sure he would have gotten it.
so I don't think he'd necessarily be referred to by name, right? I mean, an official, you'd probably be calling him Your Excellency or Your Honor or something like that. You wouldn't use a name.
But you'd ask people, no? Who's that?
That's His Excellency the Governor.
When he was a child,
Ramses.
I don't think people would have been using such high officials' names very easily.
They could be killed.
Yeah, so Pharaoh has given him a name, but I don't know whether we don't have any indication that he's using it.
So when was the language Hebrew?
The first evidence is with the Exodus events itself.
So
I mean,
he's looking very puzzled.
So it would have developed just organically like any other language?
It is definitely Semitic in origin. So it is related to Akkadian quite closely. But it's the unique thing about Hebrew is that it's the first script that is it's called an abjad, which is you have only the consonants that are written. The vowels are not written, so it's not an alphabet in that sense. But at the same time, whatever preceded it was either hieroglyphics, which is draw elaborate pictures to indicate, or cuneiform, which is slightly simplified version of the hieroglyphics. So that's what you have, and so you would need a vast vocabulary. You need thousands and thousands of syllables of symbols in order to communicate anything.
In the written form.
Yeah. Whereas Hebrew is the first one that we have evidence of that is that has a well-developed letters. So when it comes, it shows up in the 12th, 13th century BC, somewhere around there. It arrives like this. And so there's very little evidence about that. People have proposed that there was some Proto-Phoenician and all that, but it's not really all that clear which direction it went, whether it went from Phoenician to Hebrew or the other way around. They're all arriving around the same time, but the amount of writing that you have all this, a lot of the Old Testament, a lot of the Pentateuch at least, is written in that new abjad that comes up.
They have started speaking it among themselves when they were slaves.
So So there's no evidence that the Israelites ever spoke Hebrew as a common language. They spoke the native language, and this was their holy language. So they used this only in liturgical contexts.
Even the guys in the desert, they're speaking other languages.
They would have been speaking other languages, yeah. So the ones who come out of Egypt would have been speaking Egyptian. There's no reason to think that they were speaking anything else. I mean, if you lived 400 years there, you're probably speaking the local language.
Like the laws and all were given quite soon after they left Egypt.
So the laws are given in Hebrew now, yeah. So it's a new, yeah, it's not a normal development of, and so this language that they're getting is, most of them don't speak it, and will never speak it. They will use it primarily in liturgical context or to write scripture.
Like Moses.
I have no idea. Probably some Midianite language, because there you go. That's what it is. So it's obvious. God is a Tamilian. So
Then wouldn't that have been very difficult to translate those laws to the people?
it was difficult. Yeah,
So who knew that language in order to translate?
I think Moses had a crash course.
That's what happened at the bush. That's what happened at the.
That's why.
40 days, man. You got that was a crash course. Like
Then after that, most of the Levites would have kept it going.
so the
Like in the Indian Protestant of Sanskrit and all of these.
the problem is that Sanskrit was a common spoken language. Right now, it's not.
And Pali and all.
No, but it was spoken. It was spoken commonly. It wasn't restricted for temple or anything like that. Whereas Hebrew was primarily in the liturgical context, and so when God is giving these laws to Moses, I don't know. We are told that God writes it with his own hands. So he's got his own script and all. So the idea that there's a new script coming, the Jews would say, yeah, God gave us a new script because this script there's nothing before that.
Words contain all the letters of the Hebrew language.
No, I don't know about that. I'll have to check. I'll have to check that. Okay, I don't know if I'm sure there's someone who's done that, but I'm
In Thomas and Thor and yeah.
which is why the Jews had no problem with accepting Aramaic later on when that became the common language, because they never had any affinity to whatever language they were speaking. It was their language. Okay, we got a new language, we'll take that. When the Greeks came, they took that also, so they didn't have a problem there. Whereas with the scriptures, they kept it as Hebrew, but it's not the language that they're speaking regularly.
So these names that we read, Benjamin, Reuben, we typically think of them as Hebrew Jewish names.
They are.
But actually, at that time, probably very different. Right? Someone has added these names.
So someone has probably translated their original names into Hebrew to make it Benjamin or Reuben, etc. Benjamin is son of my people, whatever. So in whatever language they spoke, it must have meant same things or a similar thing. And so whoever's coming later is saying that, okay, I need to translate this into the new language, into Hebrew. So we have to ask Netanyahu what his actual name was.
Then
See, that's the thing. We have so many beliefs about the history that are not necessarily true. you know, and I mean, these tribes, you call the tribe of Benjamin, but the person wasn't Benjamin, right? Person, I mean, my name is, I'm Deepak. If you translate it into English, it becomes lamp. So, and you say that the tribe of lamp, but there wasn't a person called lamp, so there wasn't any such tribe, I mean, in that sense, So when you do those kind of things, and we don't recognize that. And unfortunately, because we are so tied to this being literally true, we are unable to see that there has been a lot of editing and certainly.
Hebrew have been sort of spoken language until it was written down. Until it was record of the writing being.
Okay, so you could have had the language being spoken. It's most languages are spoken before they are written down. Anyway, yeah. So definitely it could have been there. But you have to ask your question: in which context would they have developed this language? So as soon as they go through the Exodus, within a month they reach Sinai, and they're given these new laws, these laws in a language that we don't have evidence of before this. So they had 1 month as a group to learn that, because before that they are in Egypt, and Egyptian is not a Semitic language. So they're learning, they're in a culture that has no Semitic inclinations. I don't think in that context they're developing a new language. Hieroglyphics. That's the written form of the Egyptian language. So all language is primarily spoken. You speak first, and after that you think, oh, I wish I could have written this down. Or I wish I could have had a record of it. So unlikely in that context they're developing a new language.
So it didn't have been developed. Right? Could have been. You mean a script?
No, I'm not talking about the script. The script, forget. I mean, it's okay. Script is very easy. I mean, in a sense, we can assume that God gave Moses the script also, and no problem there also. Okay, maybe God gave Moses the script. We don't need to have evidence of the script developing. I'm just talking about the language itself. There should have been some evidence somewhere that there are people who are speaking another language.
Without the written.
No, but you have writing in other languages, no? So you have writing in Hebrew, you have writing in Akkadian and Ugaritic, lots of writing who are referring to other people. And the Egyptians do refer to the I don't know what they call them, I forgot, but they refer to a group who most scholars think that they're referring to these nomadic group that finally becomes the Israelites. But they could have given them a name that is close to the language that they speak then, right? Like we would have Malayalis are those who speak Malayalam, Tamil, those who speak, but they don't do that. They don't say that these are Hebrews or whatever. I mean, any indication that these guys have a distinct language. I'm just saying when you're referring to some group of people who are different from you, it's easiest to refer to them in terms of their language. So if the Egyptians are referring to these people with a different way, different term, it probably didn't have a distinct language, is what I'm saying.
So in verse 32, the author, who is probably Hebrew, he says the Egyptians could not dine with Hebrews. So he's referring to them as Hebrews. And what was it that was detestable about these Hebrews? They didn't need? Was it a Hebrew issue, or the Egyptians just didn't want to put foreigners? Or was there something about the Hebrews that people knew that was?
So we, when Joseph now meets Jacob and they have their discussion, Joseph says that, you know, tell the Pharaoh that we are shepherds. And then the Egyptians will not want to be with us. And so we'll ask for a separate piece of land in Goshen. So there is probably some kind of thing of, okay, these guys are the caste or class or whatever you want to say, based on their occupation, that these are shepherds. Okay, it's not associated with them. So it could be something just, based on that.
So that's a strong word. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, but they were pretty bus.
What?
Shepherd.
Coming up.
Yeah. Toeva. Yeah, that is abomination. That's a normal word that's translated. That's a word that's normally translated abomination. So not just detestable, like it's an abomination. Toeva. 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 Tov is good. Toeva is abominable. So like
It's particularly the question of language.
huh?
It's particularly the question of language. So, like, when you are a foreigner in a foreign land, you still want to retain your own culture and identity, right? They would be having a language separate from
Why?
Egyptians.
Okay, they would have had some language, but we are looking at Abraham in Ur coming out from there. He's probably speaking Elamite or Aramean.
So probably something like that would have been continued
Yeah,
through Jacob, but
Possible.
the captivity in Egypt.
Possible that they were keeping to themselves and saying, speaking, so that the Egyptians didn't understand them. Sure, I mean, it's possible.
Written form, at least we don't have any evidence of the written form of it. But when all the laws have been given so soon after leaving Egypt, and for it to, I mean, God demanded that they obey those laws. Right? Would have been transmitted orally, but that record for even the script and everything to be developed and for them to have been able to follow it and keep a record of it. It makes no sense if some of the script was there. We don't have evidence that it had been created before, but
But
massive body of laws to be
you're assuming that people could read.
read or at least transmit that, right? For it to be
There would have been very small fraction of people who actually knew how to read and write.
Yes, but it had to be transmitted in some way, right? Those 613.
Yeah.
Oral transmission. Tell the story.
So transmission before script was done would have been orally done. So we're not told that the whole thing was written down. Only the 10 commandments are written down.
That must
Yeah, but that also-
have the those 10 commandments. So many phones that they didn't have.
This is so buff, man.
No vowels. Right?
It's quicker.
Yeah, it's more compact when you don't have to put vowels. But and Hebrew also is, as you can see from many italics things, they don't need some verbs are not needed. You can conclude what the verb is there. Yeah, so it's not. It's a very sparse language, in the sense that there's some things that you can't express directly, and so you have to do some kind of roundabout ways. There's no comparative. There is no superlative. So if you put good, that is better. Uh, yeah, it's basically that sort of thing. Yeah, so they don't. So it's not the language is not conjugate. The verbs don't have tenses. They have stems, which function differently than tenses. So it's not like a past and present and future and all that. You have to you're forced to interact with the text in order to derive what the tense is. So it's not that there is a form there and automatically you know that, which is why some people say that precisely why God has chosen this language is that you can't disengage with it and understand it. Here we can just read and nothing goes in because we've read those words so many times, right? But when you read Hebrew, there's so much missing. The vowels are all missing. So that means you have to put it in, right? You have to say, okay, what vowels make sense here? Yeah.
Read it here, you read it without the italics. You
Yeah.
need to read it many times.
You have to, yeah,
to
exactly.
understand.
So even the one stem can function as a present or future or past, depending on the context. So you have to ask yourself, are they talking about the future or so the best example is Exodus chapter 3, yeah, the burning bush. What does God tell Moses? That's how all our Bibles translated, right? But that verb here can mean I will be also. So is he saying I am who I am, or I am who I will be, or I will be who I am, or I will be who I will be?
Yes.
Okay.
Answer is yes.
So I'm just saying that right there, we just interpreting this itself, we got like 4 different possible ways, and then we can unpack what each of those mean, right? I will be who I am, meaning I don't change, right? Or something like that. I am who I will be would be like you will experience me in the future, and you can conclude something about my nature. I mean, so all sorts of interpretations are possible. So we translate "I am who I am," and I think that's totally wrong because it shouldn't be translated that way. I think we should allow the ambiguous. But how do we do that in English?
I'm bracket will be as I am bracket.
Then that becomes the Amplified Bible. But I think if you just say I am who I will be or something like that, or I will be who I am or something, which is tells you that there's some dynamics involved there, and you know, um, I don't know. I mean, these are translation decisions. I don't think any translator will be disagreeing with any of these 4, but they have to put something down. Right now, I think it's become so commonplace that we are translating without thinking anymore. So what did God say? I am who I am, and we have no idea what that means, right? Because obviously, I am who I am. I mean, you said, so if you think, God, hello God, you're supposed to be revealing yourself, big burning bush, not getting consumed by the fire, and you're telling me you are who you are. Well, guess what? I am who I am also. And we can all go around saying I am who I am, and what's going to happen? So,
I am the man.
There is so much of complication in understanding what the original text means.
yes.
How futile is our exercise? I mean, at least on the surface of it. Okay, God may speak to your heart, that's a different issue. But otherwise, what you get through the language communication is very limited. I mean,
It is
you
extremely
have
limited.
limitation of the Hebrew language, you have plus you have the limitation of the English language, you have the limitation of the translators.
Yes, so my point in all of this is that we Christians especially tend to be so dogmatic about things, whereas the reality is that we really have no grounds for that. I mean, we are most of us reading um, a language in a language that is at least once removed from the text. Yeah, so at least once removed from text, right? So the text is either in Hebrew and then it's translated directly. A lot of the translations are done not even once; they're translated from English. So a lot of the translations in other languages are done from English itself. Yeah. So you have then twice removed now. With respect to Jesus, he never he probably knew very little Greek. I mean, he probably knew a little bit of Greek to conduct some day-to-day business. How much does this cost or whatever, those kind of things. Huh?
These nails, how much?
The nails, yeah. How much are the nails? What's a hammer and all that, yeah. But apart from that, he's speaking in Aramaic. We've got a text in Greek that's translated into English, and we are dogmatic about what's the. I mean, that's just for me, it's just like ridiculous.
So many layers of human error.
So many layers of human error. Yeah. Again, the main thrust of the Bible, I don't think there should be much of a problem. There is one God. Okay. Things that are in our creed, you can perhaps say, okay, yeah, don't know some phrases mean. I don't know what very God or very God means. I mean, really, I have no idea what that phrase means. Huh? Yeah, it's true God of true God. Yeah, but what does it mean? No, but what does true God of true God mean? That's like I am who I am. It's a meaningless statement. And so you put something that's meaningless in a creed, which means that you're asking people to say meaningless stuff. I believe in one God. You already said no. My true God. That according to the creed, there's no other God, right? So then, yeah. I'm just saying that the things that are in the creed, mostly you can be able to you can conclude. It shouldn't be too much of a problem concluding that. But beyond that, we have all sorts of other theories, right? How is Jesus fully God and fully human? And, we declared heretical all the Nestorians. We declared heretical all the Arians. We declared heretical all the Ebionites. We declared heretical all the who are the what? No, they are the ones who declared heretical. all the Syrian. So the technically, yeah. No. So technically, the Syrian Orthodox Church is non-Chalcedonian. So in 451, they had a Council of Chalcedon, in which they came up with a statement of Chalcedon, which indicates how Jesus can be fully God and fully human. And the Syrian churches and the Coptic churches rejected it.
Fully God.
What? Yes. According to the statement of Chalcedon, Jesus has two natures that are distinct and that have encountered or been involved in what's known as a hypostatic union. So huh? No, hypostatic union. What the Syriac and
What is hypostat?
no one knows what it means. No. If you're asking what these things mean, I have no idea. I'm telling you what the term is.
I figured out from his hand.
Hypostasis. Standing under.
It is
Okay.
it's The only word, it's only used in that context, not anything else, that word. Because it is some other.
Hypostasis is not used anywhere else. So it's a very technical word used in the statement of Chalcedon. So the Syriac and Coptic churches rejected that, and they said, no, Jesus has one nature. It's a union of the divine and human. So so Jesus is God-man at the same time. So you can't, and I think they've got the truth.
Differentiate.
No, even here they're saying that you can't, but they're saying that he has two natures. One is a divine nature and one is a human nature, and they are unified somehow or the other, so that there is no conflict. You have to say how there's no conflict is there, right? The Syriac churches say no. When Jesus is conceived, God and humans join, and you have a new species that is created. He's a God-man. Every part of him is both 100% divine and 100% human. There is no issue of having them separate but united. It is united. So now you can see both are claiming the same thing from a different perspective. One is saying there are two that are united. The other said they merged, the two merged.
So they,
So now the more powerful ones said that the less powerful ones are heretics. It's only recently in 2011 or 13 or something that they finally had a statement saying that they can have communion with each other. The Eastern Orthodox and the Coptic and Syriac churches.
Lots of Coptic churches in Egypt.
Yeah. So for 1,500 years or so, 1,600 years, these two have been separated because of this thing, where they're saying the same thing, just putting the emphasis somewhere else. Neither of them is saying he is 50% and 50% or 75-25 or anything like that. They both say 100-100. So how do you get 100-100? That's where, and is that revealed in the scriptures? Absolutely not. So, we
One of them believes that he's a new species.
yes, you have a unit. It's one nature, mia ousios. So one essence, one nature that he has. It's a God-human nature. See, again, I don't want. I think that makes more sense of the things that of the Gospels, etc. I'm not going to say that someone who says, okay, there are two natures and they're united, we're going to hell or something like that. I mean, I don't understand this either. I mean, I can barely understand how I'm human. I mean, forget about I can't understand who God is other than. Then now you have a God and human together. Like, come on, give me a break here. See,
So when you say it's 100%, I don't think supposed to
I don't think you're supposed to understand that. I mean, I think you're supposed to take that by faith that he is divine, he is human, he is not part human. I mean, like, where is which part is human? And which part is there? I mean, that doesn't make sense then. Yeah, if you're starting to say that part human, part divine, that then each one of us can draw the line differently, and we have all sorts of the only consistent thing would be he's fully divine and fully human, and then you can try to explain what we understand by that and how we think that could have come about. But I think then to become dogmatic about that and say whoever disagrees with my vocabulary, not I think so their statement in 2011, 2013, whatever is actually they declare that they have been saying the same thing using different words. So now you can see that basically they have been separated and not having communion with each other for 1,600 years. Now they're saying we were just using different words to say the same thing. I mean, you can see how sad it is. You know, that now they're saying we are using different words to say the same thing. So why could you not have done that in 451? Why did we need the Council of Chalcedon? I mean, it's good to have these councils. I'm not saying that it's bad, but then as a result, if you're starting to excommunicate people and saying those who don't agree with this are, anathema to them and all that. I mean, like, come on, give me a break.
Babel.
Oh, Genesis. Oh, we are in Genesis. Okay.
I just want to say, how did we get to this? I was trying to figure out the trade.
There is no.
And now we've gone.
Okay, Babel.
Babel languages were confused. The language was confused, sorry, I forgot. And I was trying to use the same languages. And then, which language was that? We don't know. And then it led to lots of other languages.
So once they're separated, yeah, they would.
Five people who heard others speak the same thing, kind of got together. And they went and lived together separately.
I think I don't think I think they were speaking the same language. They couldn't understand each other, and so they probably split according to families or something like that. And as they split, and the distance between them grew, the languages developed because they weren't in contact with others. So they are encountering new things, new kinds of plants, new kinds of new climate, or new types of terrain, and so vocabulary starts developing when they encounter things. No, I didn't say that. I'm just saying it could have been because we don't have evidence of written. Again, as Sam says, maybe they were speaking this before. It's possible that they were. It's just that we don't have any reference to this group of people who are speaking another language, whereas we do have references to other languages that no longer exist. Like Akkadian and Ugaritic and all of those Elamite, all of those languages, we know that there were people who were speaking those languages. Hittite. So it could be that they were speaking Hittite. That was quite common in this. Yeah. So and that's a Semitic language also. So it could be Elamite or Aramean, not Aramaic, Aramean, what the Arameans spoke. So it could have been one of those. Definitely, I mean, Abraham would have been speaking something in Ur. So he could have got that language with him down. Maybe they anyway were living in a kind of ghetto in Goshen. So that language could have developed. No, they came down in after 200 years or whatever, however long Abraham lived and all that. No. So eventually they're down in Egypt, separated. So it's possible that they're speaking their own language and it's developing. Yeah.
Were there historical records of the person Joseph? And of the Hebrews being slaves? There are no records of that also. The language itself need not have been referred to also, right? Because that's the period in which that language would have been spoken in.
Sure. Yeah. So there's no reference to any to this group being in Egypt.
Even though it was 400 years.
Even though it was 400 years. So my view of Exodus is that there was an event that's not as big as portrayed in Exodus.
Not 2 million people.
Where are you getting 2 million
600,000
men? So probably much more than 2 million. I mean, you're assuming that each of them had just one wife and each wife had only one kid. I mean, that's like yeah, the founding story itself tells you it should be much more. But okay, conservative estimate 2 million. Yeah, that there would have been some kind of evidence of something of this vast group of people moving. And if you're asking how they were all fed and all that, well, you're looking at,
Where
I'm talking about the quail part of it. The manna is a something that's coming from heaven. Who knows how that's happening? But quail are animals, right? I mean, yeah,
They're small.
animal kingdom.
They're small.
They're small.
1%. There are 4 million players falling every day.
Yeah. So you need exactly. So you need.
Oh, 10 million, whatever.
Yeah, because they're tiny, right? I mean, one won't be enough for a person.
There was no point.
No, I'm not saying that there weren't quail. So I'm saying that there's probably a number of uh, exoduses, in waves of a few thousand at a time, which is something that you can understand. But in the memory, the theological memory of the people, it's the Exodus event. That there was a great event. And so I think that there was some kind of event that they made, they left Egypt, went into Sinai, and had some kind of encounter with God. Those people were told that they had been brought out of Egypt from the land of slavery. That became the defining event for everyone later who joined them. Because every Jew is supposed to say that they were at Sinai receiving the law. No Jew, when a Jewish boy reaches 13 or a girl becomes 13, and they go to the bar mitzvah or bat mitzvah, what they say is that they were there at Sinai to receive the law. So now, obviously, they're not there at Sinai. They're 3,000 odd years distance from it. But theologically, the claim is we were at Sinai to receive the law. So there are no, you say God doesn't have any grandchildren, right? That sort of thing. That's the kind of claim that they're making. Each of us were there at Sinai to receive the law. So theologically, it doesn't matter if there were 100 or 1,000 small exoduses. The people who went first had that encounter, and then everyone else who joined them were at Sinai to receive the law. So in the theological imagination of the Old Testament, every Jew was there. And since every Jew came out of Egypt, there's that one event. Now, if it's that sort of a situation, you don't need to explain why there's no evidence. There wouldn't be any evidence if there are, a few hundred people, a few thousand people moving. You would not be able to, and would the desert be able to sustains that many people? Yeah, it sustains that many people regularly. So you don't have to then postulate something extraordinary for which we need to search for evidence, because there should be evidence of something like that, right? Like chariot wheels in the Red Sea and all that.
And then, if it was multiple waves like this, so would the gathering at Mount Sinai, would that have been like a combination of all these waves again together there, or would that have happened at the end when all of them were actually in the desert?
Okay, so one of the proposals is that this is actually a very peaceful migration. It was a migration out from Egypt. They were slaves, but you have a few hundred leaving, and the Egyptians didn't think much of it, and they just allowed them to go. They reached Sinai, they received the revelation, and they went up north and peacefully mingled with the settled in the land. And you have these waves coming up later on. Later on, to justify why they're there,
Waves.
Later on, to justify their presence in the land, where they are becoming more and more compared to the native population, they then develop this theology of Joshua and the conquest. That because there's no evidence of any of that. There's no evidence of any of that happening.
The three books of the Bible are totally evidenceless.
3 why? We're talking about Joshua, that's 6th book. Yeah.
So there was no person to that?
There's no evidence of a person like Joshua or Moses or no evidence. Again,
By faith.
just because they didn't write things down for posterity doesn't necessarily mean that those people didn't exist. Yeah. What this proposal, however, for me, it tells me how bloodthirsty God's people were and are, that we need a conquest narrative to justify our presence in the land, when it was actually a peaceful entrance. So even though we entered peacefully and we mingled with the people around, in order to justify ourselves, we have to invent a conquest of the land.
These 10 plagues and all didn't happen.
Are we studying Exodus now? What are we studying? We're studying Joshua also now. Okay.
So what is there, who is there evidence of?
Okay, that's a very good question.
So if there's no, if you don't have Joshua and nothing before him, then.
Who? Joshua. So we don't have any evidence of anyone before Solomon. Even David, we don't have any evidence. No, nothing outside the Bible. Nothing outside the Bible.
Scratch.
David had. Peter, how do we know that he was ruddy then?
No, so if you're asking extra biblical evidence, Solomon is the first guy we have evidence of. Actually, not because of that. There are some local kings who are complaining about him, basically. Not because of that. That was a done thing. They weren't complaining about the wives and all. His taxation, basically.
Solomon, there were lots of things. He says a guy and the guy and all that. So they would have locally known or family known who their parents were and something about it. I know who my father was. Ask him where his grandfather he came from there. For that, at least these generations I know. For that, but they would know. His father would know I am from this land or whatever. And then so would Solomon know, oh, he's so son or whatever. Something they know, right? So Solomon knew something. I'm giving David's son. Solomon. How did they?
He would have known David was.
When did local knowledge at some point becomes public knowledge?
So, would Solomon have known his father was David, and would David have known his father was Jesse, and so would Solomon have known his grandfather was Jesse? Yeah.
If we know Solomon exists, then
No, I'm not doubting that there was a David. I'm not doubting that there was a Jesse or anything like that. I'm just saying that there's no extra biblical evidence for them, right? So if you are looking for confirmation,
extending the same thing, you are getting into a problem where you say that outside the Bible you have no record of Jesus' resurrection.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, uncle, you're missing my point. I'm not saying that David did not exist. I'm not saying that Jesse did not exist. I'm just saying that we don't have any evidence outside the Bible. That's all. For me, the reason why you have a lot of these Christian apologists who would say that we have evidence and lot of evidence, but we don't have evidence of anything before First Kings, the events of First Kings. That's when we have Solomon coming in, right? So prior to that, we have no evidence really outside. We have some references to some nomadic tribes and all of that. that scholars think it might have been the Israelites. We don't have any clear indication that that was the case. Um, the the um, the again the events of the Exodus, we don't have any evidence for that. Now, if you're asking me, we don't have evidence of Jesus' resurrection also outside the Bible. Yeah, we don't. But the thing is, we have a different situation, because for Jesus' resurrection, you have a weird situation where you have a group of Messianic Jews who did not desert their dead Messiah, which is what happened in all other cases. Yeah. So in all other cases where you have a messianic claimant who then was killed, they either disbanded or they asked one of his brothers or his son or whatever to become the next Messiah. You don't have that with this group of people. That needs to be explained. So when you ask yourself what has happened here, why is this sticking out like a sore thumb? You have to say the Christians themselves are giving you a reason why this happened. They're saying that they weren't convinced about this till something happened on Easter. So they're telling you, not hiding the fact. So the Gospels don't hide the fact that they didn't believe, they didn't understand anything till he was raised, right? Unanimous claim in all the Gospels that we had no clue what was going to happen till he was raised. So that's what they're telling you. There was some event, and we believe he was raised, and hence, since he is alive, he's not a dead Messiah who we have to discard. Yeah. With respect to the Exodus and all that, what stands in the what is similar to nothing? Because you have from the Exodus to Solomon, you know how many years? 500 years or so. A lot could have happened in that. You don't need this one event, Exodus, to explain Solomon. Right? So, whereas here you're talking about, within a matter of days, a change has happened.
Does evidence really matter? Do you really need the
No, so for me, it does not matter whether the Exodus happened as described, because what it's telling us is that the memory what I want you to remember is that you were slaves. So I'm saying that first group, however large it was, that first group were slaves who left. Somehow they maybe a small slave rebellion or whatever it is, they escaped. They escaped, they reached Sinai. They have some kind of a divine encounter. Maybe there was a person who is Moses. Moses is an Egyptian name now. Yeah. So Moses is not a Hebrew name. So in the middle of all of this, you have someone who's from a tribe of Levi, which is a Hebrew name, but the original guy was probably not named Levi, right? But he is named Moses, and Moses is an Egyptian name. So they probably had this kind of encounter, but for them, the significance of what has happened to them is that Yahweh is delivered them from slavery. And they're saying everyone else who joins this faith has to admit that they were slaves in Egypt and Yahweh delivered them from slavery. So that's where Exodus comes in, and we have to say, okay, if we believe Exodus, what we are saying is that we were slaves and Yahweh delivered us from slavery. Now, for the Christians, that's exactly what Paul says. You are enslaved and Christ has delivered you from the kingdom of darkness to the kingdom of his glorious Son, right? So we have the same kind of a narrative. It's just now centered around Jesus. But it's the same narrative. You were slaves and you were delivered. And where do we think that happened? We also think it happened 2000 years ago. I don't think that this happened like Jesus died for me the day I became a Christian or something. That's not. I say that event 2000 years ago is applicable today. So why not that original event of the Exodus for everyone who later joined?
It was more like so if it's more like we are fortunate to have that, then a privilege, because if you say, I am you, for example, and you say, no, my God gave me this, not you, gave me this kind of thing. Then say, no, he didn't give you, why should you take the slack and everything? But you say, no, I am a person, and in order to be at you, I have to believe this. You also believe it, and you just come. So it's more of a, blessing or a fortune. We are fortunate enough to have that fortune in life.
Yeah, so blessing would be a religious term, fortune would be a non-religious term, but I think
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
basically the same.
Lucky,
Yeah.
but it's lucky.
So we are fortunate to be experiencing this, definitely.
Yeah.
Um, when you were saying, I was um, yeah. So the thing is, those who have made this proposal that I've been talking about Exodus, are clear that that original group were slaves, because no one's inventing that about their founding story. You don't have anyone saying we were slaves. No, we were always high caste, high born, and someone displaced us and now we are regaining it, right? It's always that sort of a story. This is the only story that says we were slaves and we cried out to Yahweh and he delivered us. So because this also sticks out like a sore thumb, you're saying, okay, there probably was some kind of a slave rebellion or deliverance, whatever you want to call it, that was probably accompanied by some kind of miraculous signs that eventually becomes a plague. That then in the imagination of these people who experience that is the defining event of their God. And hence, Yahweh has to constantly tell them, remember, you were slaves in Egypt, therefore do not mistreat other people. Yeah. You don't have that sort of a command anywhere. Yeah. Your experience of trauma should not be an excuse to perpetuate it, but a reason for stopping it.
Now, what is the chances of Jews not being a homogeneous racial group and them being just people who were in this fold?
Yeah, so I don't know about this original group whether they were, but even in Exodus, you have other people joining them while they are leaving. You have non-Israelites joining them, so it's mentioned there. The Israelites, meaning descendants of Jacob, and other people are also joining them. And so right from the start, you have a non-homogeneous group. Yeah. So even in the imagination that they have, the imagination is that we are not homogeneous. We are a mixed group. All that is uniting us is that Yahweh delivered us from slavery. Are we studying? Which book are we studying?
But why would the person who's not, if someone else had to join the group, if the theory is the original group and also, why would a person who had a pretty decent life, assuming that most people have had some decent life somewhere,
In that context, yeah, whatever. Yeah.
why would you say I'm a slave? Oh, I'm a slave now and something like how, like if I were if that like if there was a similar context now, like even if a non-Christian did something, he would have to say, I'm a sinner and so on and so on. Why would I get into that if my life is
So why would someone become a Christian then, right?
whatever, without anything and adopt that stance, but that's peaceful.
So why would someone
Unless
become a
it's
Christian?
so troublesome.
No, but why would someone be a Christian, become a
Oh.
Christian? Same thing, right?
Yeah.
So there is something about this narrative that seems to be compelling to some weirdos. And we have to keep that in mind. It has always been to some weirdos. If you read everything up to Second Kings, you will see that the history of the nation of Israel united as well as Israel in the north and Judah in the south is consistently defined by prophets coming and telling them, y'all are unfaithful to Yahweh, y'all are unfaithful to Yahweh, y'all are unfaithful to Yahweh, y'all are building shrines under every tree, y'all are worshipping Asherah, and all that. Why would they have to say that? Because it was true. It was the other practices were the norm. Yahwism was a minority opinion in the history of the kingdom. Um, it is only with the exile that Yahwism then becomes the predominant, the majority religion.
That one is the first.
Babylonian exile. Yeah. So what we are reading here is we are reading the minority report of Israel. Really, you have in Kings and Chronicles, you have them refer to the books of the annals of the kings of Judah, the books of the annals of the kings of Israel, the books of Jasher, and all those. All these books are there, and these guys are saying, we've referred to all these books. This is what we've written down. If you want more information, you can go there. But what they're saying is, this is the theological spin that we're giving to it. These books are theological books because so and so was a good king, meant he was faithful to Yahweh, and he destroyed the altars of Baal and all of that sort of thing. If this one was a bad king, it meant he was unfaithful to Yahweh and worship pagan gods and all that. I mean, that's basically the link, right? So these are theological history. That the history has been theologized, and in that context, you have consistently the refrain that all of Israel is worshipping all the false gods, and it's only a minority. Yeah. So Elijah, he thinks he's the last, and God has to say, "No, I've saved 7,000 for you. I've saved those who haven't bent the knee, right? So I've saved." He doesn't know where they are, but it's a minority. 7,000 in those days was nothing. The population would have been a few million. So that's all. That's all. That's the weirdos. Yeah. Not all who say Lord, Lord are my disciples. And I'm saying, the majority of those we say that Christianity is the largest religion and 3 billion or whatever it is. Most of them are not. I just hope I'm one of the weirdos. That's all.
That was really happy.
What?
They're going to be weird and just.
leave. See you
Oh.
folks.
Good night, everyone.
Ta-ta, peeps.
Yeah.
So by explaining all of this and objectively explaining all of this historically, we are kind of trying to avoid the gaps that make it weird. If you say that if you're talking about that homostatic and homeo.
Hypostatic and homo.
So they try to explain it like one. They try to bring it to art, but it's there somewhere, some thought, whatever it is there. They're kind of trying to say, let's make it unweird in that way, and then we try and do over explanation of.
Okay, these big words are not where the weirdness lies. In the end, when we're trying to explain all these mysteries, we will eventually use big words because the big words do have certain meaning that we can assign to various ideas that we have. Where it's weird is the kind of story we're telling about ourselves. The church has, for the most part, forgotten that the one they worship was crucified. we may have him on a crucifix, or we may have him on a cross and say he was raised, and therefore we don't have him on the crucifix anymore. But for some reason, we have forgotten that he was actually crucified, which means the powers that be declared him to be seditious, an insurrectionist, and someone who therefore was an enemy of the state. This is crucial. The one we worship was declared to be an enemy of the state and killed. And we have colluded with the state throughout for the last 1700 years. And we have forgotten, therefore, that the reason why such a minority of weirdos were causing the Roman emperors to sit uneasily on their thrones was that this is the only faith that says, you are not Lord, there is someone else. This is not the kingdom that needs to be on this earth. Another one needs to be there. And we've forgotten that. We made it to be some spiritual individual, me and Jesus business, when it is a political thing through and through. It is the only faith that undermines the authority of those who are in power right now.
That's what they expected Jesus to be. The people at that time, that's what they were to the Roman Empire.
But that is precisely so. We have accepted the way of Caesar, which is why all the so-called Christian countries went around colonizing other countries, because that is the way of Caesar, not the way of Jesus. Jesus says, go out to all the earth and be my witnesses. Witnesses to what? To his death and his resurrection. That is what we have to, that is his method of conquest. So Jesus undermines the very tools that the empire uses by refusing to use the tools that the empire uses. And we have forgotten it. We have accepted the tools of the empire, and we think that the more tools, such tools that we have, the more faithful we can be and spread the gospel. What we spread then is satanic. I don't normally use that word, but what are we studying? Which book?
It's that's yes. You know, other thing is the gaps to people where
I've heard I am. But
Isn't it, if it was something they wanted to, a narrative they wanted to create at some point, whenever, however this happened, to support what do they want to support? Isn't it like layered the narrative? They have like, why would you want to have a book of judges? Why would you want to have, I mean, you could have done away details. The kind of unnecessary have some details. You could have like 10 main characters and said, okay, this is a narrative. Let's do this way.
Okay, so I'm taking my hint from Alistair McIntyre. He has a book called Three Rival Versions of Moral Inquiry. Three rival versions of moral inquiry. Moral. So there he considers, basically what he says is, when you have rival theories, so you have rival theories that they can't coexist. Yeah. I'm not going to what he says, but the idea is, if you have rival theories that can't coexist, how do you decide which is the one you should accept? So he says the one that can explain the presence of all the others is the one that you should accept. Okay. Yeah. So the one that can accommodate, that can say how this came about, is the one that you need to accept. So on that, I'm using the same idea here. If you have a God who promotes his will through violence, through clear boundaries of who's in and who's out, you will not have books like Jonah, Ruth, They just don't fit. You will have only books like Ezra and Nehemiah where all the outsiders need to be sent out and divorced and all of that. Yeah, you will have only those kind of things. You will not have any of the peace passages where because the lion shall wolf shall lie down with the lamb and all that will not be there. Why have that kind of a view? However, because the God himself is violent, right? In that case, God himself is violent, and a violent God, because he has so much power, will not allow any deviation. It will be a totalitarian regime. The only, however, if God is loving and is non-violent, then he will have to deny his nature in order to suppress those who disagree with him. So when the violent texts come up, he may be very distressed that they are there, but he would go against his nature if he were going to read it. So my view is that the non-violent God is the only one who can explain the diversity of the scriptures. The violent God would have one voice. So now if you have a non-violent God, you can say, okay, then the violent texts are the ones that he is distressed with and the ones he disapproves of, but he cannot wipe it out because that would be to deny his nature. What?
Yeah, then we have to listen to this again, type it out, and read it.
YouTube doesn't give a transcript?
You can.
It's all.
It's an auto.
You can, but it's all.
CC's caption.
No, you get.
No, they have a transcript.
On the right.
No, it's any transcript.
You can highlight it all and copy. It doesn't copy exactly properly.
No,
but-
what I said to accept,
No, you can.
and then the time and this
Put it
number, I
down.
want to see the number. And then I saw.
From the transcript, is it?
Yeah, you see.
Saw it and I said, you know, the call, and then saw it.
You need somebody else.
There you go.
That's right.
Maybe right, but.
Greater next.
She excels at it, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll stop. Uncle, we'll just pray and many I have not eaten. Okay, let's pray. Let's pray. Gracious Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for the various things that we've discussed and wrestled with. And we are glad that we have this opportunity to do this in your presence. And we thank you for the food. We haven't done that till now. Thank you for the food and thank you for Cookie who made it. And be with us during the rest of the week. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.